Welcome to game number one. Game number one is in the books. Jason Bristol, Zach Tawatari. We are currently awaiting to hear from Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans after this 29-27 win. What was your big takeaway from what you saw from these Texans?
The stars performed. Nick Caserio spent $244 million in guaranteed money in the offseason, and it looks like it paid off.
It did, especially when you look at Joe Mixon and the numbers. 30 carries, 159 yards. 5.3 yards per carry. That was huge. And I was happening to listening to the Colts broadcast on the way in, and they were just stunned by the way the Texans were running the football, given how poorly they did it last season.
Yeah, and what really stood out, I think, is the physicality that Joe Mixon ran with. That was an element this team just did not have last year. Devin Singletary, of course, was more the guy who found the holes, and obviously Dameon Pierce had a down year last year, so seeing Joe Mixon take those hits in the second level, that was pretty impressive today.
Once again, we're waiting to hear from DeMeco Ryans. As you can see, we have our picture there of the podium at Lucas Oil Stadium as DeMeco Ryans and then C.J. Stroud will be coming to the podium to take questions from the media in Indianapolis. Looking at some of the statistics, C.J. Stroud 24 of 32 for 234 yards and the 2 touchdowns, both to Diggs. Joe Mixon leading the way, the running game, 159 yards. And when you look at what C.J. did in the passing game, look at the receivers. Nico Collins, 6 catches. Tank Dell, 3 catches. Diggs, 6 catches. Dalton Schultz, 3 catches. That kind of balance is going to be really difficult for opposing defenses to handle moving forward.
Yeah, and early in the game, they showed a graphic on the broadcast about the distribution of wealth, if you will. CJ seemed to be targeting all of his receivers pretty evenly, and what was really impressive today is I think that those receivers showed their skill sets.
And here is DeMeco Ryans. Let's listen in.
Yeah, it starts with our offensive line. Like, the way they controlled the line of scrimmage was awesome, right? And then Joe, he stepped up big time for us. Well, we needed him to run the ball. He did. They knew it was run. We knew it was run. And he still made the play. So, man, just excited to have him on our side. You know, we've seen it all training camp, and it was exciting to see him do it here his first game.
What can you assess CJ's day today?
Yeah, CJ, I mean, he made a lot of good plays for us. He was pressured a lot, but he still moved around and made plays. Escaped the pocket. The plays on the move were really exciting plays to see. Same, Steph was Steph. Like, he showed up in the big-time moments, got a touchdown for us. Like, that's who he's been, right? And I'm excited to have him, and he shows what he can do for us.
What does it do for your offense when you have a running game that can be successful when everyone knows you're going to run?
Yeah, it opens everything up, right? When you can run the ball, it opens everything up. When it comes to the passing game, I think guys they got to put 8 in the box, right? So now you have a lot of single coverage on the outside, and, you know, that's where Nico, Tank, Diggs, they can make their plays.
Outside of the big plays, how good did the defense step up and make plays?
Made plays when we had to, but not good enough, right? Got to eliminate the big plays. That's when you give up points. When you give up the big plays, that equal points. So overall, we had some good spurts there, good on third down, but just the last one just cannot happen.
At the end of the first half, their perspective on the field, what was wrong with the official? First, he had a different clock, then he put time off the clock, and then just kind of went from
Yeah, it's just us as coaches, start with me, just communication on the sideline.
How beneficial is it to see the new piece that you brought in, Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, both of them combined for 3 touchdowns? How beneficial is it to have those type of playmakers now in your offense?
And it's everything for us. Like, those guys can step up and make plays no matter what the situation is. Like, when you can count on those guys to make plays, it's huge for our team, not just the offense, but what they did for our entire team. Joe running the ball, the energy that they provided to our entire team was outstanding.
You've been talking about training camp, the rookies have to step up and be ready. What did you see from Kamari Bassett and Caleb?
Yeah, Kamari did his job. Kalen did what he done every day in training camp. He went and took the football. So, you know, I'm very excited, very pleased with what those two rookies have done for us, and also Brooks stepping in, making a big tackle on the kickoff. So our rookies play really well.
I mean, going back to Mixon and Diggs, in the offseason when you were looking to get better, why were those guys the ones you wanted to add, take it up a little bit?
Yeah, extremely tough football players. They love football, and they play the game the right way. It jumps off the tape, and they're great people, right? And adding those guys to our team, it's just evident, like with Steph becoming a captain, with Joe also being on the leadership council, like those guys are leaders as well. So it's just very valuable, not only on the field, but off the field.
Throughout the offseason, you mentioned how you wanted CJ to show more command in the offense. Game one, where did you kind of see that command pop out throughout the game?
I think it was just when the play broke down, right? Seeing him being able to, keep it alive and make plays, that was really huge for us.
We talked a lot about the new additions to the team showing through this game. But when the game really mattered most, Nico Collins really stepped up and had some big plays in this game. Just what can you say about his ability to step up in the clutch, especially against the Colts? He did it last year.
Yeah, big time playmaker, right? And he's done it a couple times here versus the Colts. So that's what Nico does. He makes big time plays in the moment when we needed it most. Like, what a play, what an awesome catch for him to get down and bounce. It was really big time play.
Being as you guys said, it's going to be a tough matchup with Anthony Richardson. It probably won't be for many years to come. What did you see from him, and what do you think was the key to just trying to stop him from bringing the game home?
It just came down to tackling, and when the ball is up in the air, we got to be able to go get it. That was it.
And close it out with Will. Simple question, but to just go on the road in division week 1 and get the win, how important is that?
1-0 is everything. So excited to be 1-0 on the next week. All right, thank you.
Why are you all mad?
And that is DeMeco Ryans from Indianapolis after this 29-27 win, crediting the O-line for controlling the line of scrimmage. It starts up front. It wasn't perfect, but overall, I think when you look at how this team performed when it mattered the most, I would probably give this offensive line at least a B in the way it handled. Granted, there were some sacks early on, but when things really mattered the most, they did their job.
Yeah, at least a B, because early in the game we saw, a couple of false starts. We saw a little bit of lack of cohesion with that offensive line, but as the game went on, they did seem to get more on the same page and clearly did a great job blocking for Joe Mixon specifically to open up those holes and create an opportunity for him to rush for over 150 yards.
And you can always tell how a game went based on the strength of DeMeco Ryans' voice after the game. Not much of a voice left, so obviously he was working those officials throughout this one, being a close game, just a 2-point outcome. But again, it comes down to the Texans winning. He mentioned Nico Collins, that big play at the end of the game to get that first down and continue the clock. Looking at your comments here, Oscar says, great game, Texans. Rivera says, Mixon is the truth. He may wind up being the best pickup of the offseason.
I think so, because that was the biggest glaring weak point that this team really needed. They needed to improve on the running game. They only averaged a little over 3 yards a game last season rushing the ball. You mentioned this earlier. Joe Mixon had more rushing yards in this first game than the Texans had in the first 2 games as a staff.
I have it written down right here, Zach. You stole my thunder. I was gonna wow him with that statistic, and you just stole my thunder. But right now we're also waiting for C.J. Stroud. That's why the podium shot is still up there. In the meantime, while we're waiting, let's do this. Give me one word to describe this game, and this goes for everyone out there as well. I have our Facebook page pulled up, so give me one word to describe this game for the Texans and the Colts.
Okay.
Here's the hint, though. Leave a little space because we're going to okay, that's good. Do it that way. And I'm going to leave space because I'm going to start relaying what our Facebook fans here are saying. So
sounds good.
Go first, because
Okay.
I now need a. Can you hand me that eraser?
Sure. There you go. All right. My word, complete. This was a complete win when you think about where the Texans are in the season, with the fact that this is their first game. It wasn't going to be perfect, but we saw everybody contribute. We saw not too many mistakes, and honestly, C.J. Stroud made up for a lot of what the offensive line lacked in the first half. I mean, his ability to go off book is so underrated. A lot of people see him as more of a pocket passer, but he's very mobile, and he has the ability to throw from any slot.
Troy, I see your word here, but I'm going to go with mine first. I just said gutsy.
Like that.
You know, this was a game that for a while could have gone either way, but this team, and I think that has a lot to do with some of the veterans now on this group, that it was a gutsy win. When situations came down, big time situations, they were gutsy and they made the plays when they needed them. And that's why I'm going to go with gutsy. It was interesting listening to DeMeco Ryans. Didn't have much to say about the snafu at the end of the first half. Saying it was blame it on the coaches. I don't expect DeMeco to go anywhere else other than to point it back at himself and his staff. But that was certainly a bizarre situation. I don't think the referees, the officials, helped matters by not really explaining things that well. I'm guessing that's where some of the issue comes from, is that they didn't get the proper explanation from
it seemed like
the officials.
Originally, they said, let's put 15 seconds back on the clock, right?
Yeah.
So as a coaching staff, they're probably thinking, okay, we have 1 or 2 more plays before we absolutely have to kick that field goal.
Yeah.
I was perplexed, to say the least, to see CJ go back out there and the clock start.
But then it was a running clock in the minute.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the big problem.
Right.
Troy is saying ready. And then Sheila has Mixon. That was one word. Yeah, Mixon. Not really a verb, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Or an adjective, I should say. So, yeah, not a verb, adjective. So that's what we have. Troy says, but we all thought the clock was stopped on that weird-looking little play. Yeah, without a doubt. Evidently the Texans felt that way as well. But in the end, I don't want to say it didn't matter, but it didn't matter. So the Texans obviously with a 2-point win. Defense, certainly NFL teams, they hope their guys can hold a team to 14 to 17 points or under 20. And overall, again, I think it's a situation where the Texans did enough, and you're going to have games like this. Not every game is going to be perfect. Not every game is going to be artwork when it comes to either side of the football, but defensively, they did enough, and at times that's going to be the difference, and you've got to be okay with that.
You do, and in a lot of ways, it was kind of bend, don't break on a number of those drives. However, DeMeco Ryans is not going to be happy about those chunk yardage plays. The big plays that they allowed, specifically that one to Pierce in the first quarter. He had another big play later, but at the same time,
they got to Anthony Richardson. He just made but that one play in particular, they got to Anthony Richardson. He's an athlete. He just made an incredible throw. I mean, I don't know if he could make that throw the next time around. That was an incredible throw.
You could argue that the Colts had a lot more success today off book than they did, in their, traditional setup, wherever the play was supposed to go. When the play broke down and it seemed like Anthony Richardson was able to keep it going, he seemed to be able to find an option. We saw him miss 3 or 4 throws just point blank.
Yeah, those weren't good.
Quite frankly. But again, the Texans defense, they played to the game, and they ended up pulling it out because they didn't end up giving up the huge play when it absolutely mattered.
Once again, as we await C.J. Stroud at the podium, we're taking your one word to describe this outcome. Texans beating the Colts 29-27. Tracy has weighed in with prepared.
I like
prepared. When you have veterans on your team, this is what happens. Prepared. And having watched a lot of bad football over the past few years, before CJ got here, it sometimes looked like they weren't prepared. But in this case, again, the veterans coming through when it mattered the most.
I will say, I love that word from Tracy because I think a big part of this offseason was wondering how quickly is this team going to be able to be cohesive with so many big stars coming in. It really did seem like everybody was on the same page with the exception of maybe the offensive line. In the first quarter specifically, I think they struggled a little bit. But again, they picked that up, and it seemed like everybody was genuinely on that same page. A lot of credit to DeMeco Ryans' leadership.
Another word coming in from Maria, achieved.
Can't argue with that.
Achieved. So that works. Again, we're waiting to hear from C.J. Stroud. He usually approaches the podium 20 minutes after. About. My guess is one of the first words out of his mouth or the first sentence will be a credit to the offensive line and controlling the line of scrimmage. And when you look at what they did running the football, and that was a big Achilles heel for them last year. We mentioned it earlier, Joe Mixon, 159 yards rushing. You hinted at it. It took the Texans as a team to make it to week 3 last year, to have 159 yards on the ground. Look this up earlier. First game against the Ravens, 72 yards rushing. Second game against the Colts, 52 yards rushing. So you're at 124. And that third game, Jacksonville, I believe, that third game, they had 86 yards rushing. So it took them that many games to hit 159 yards, which is what Joe Mixon had in this one. And then when you add in the element of Joe Mixon's pass catching abilities,
that was
special. Yeah, you see why Nick Caserio wanted him so badly.
That was special. And one thing, I think we have to highlight is just how much having that running game contributes to a balanced attack on offense. Typically, you know this, first couple questions of a press conference, you know the game story. These were 3 separate questions to DeMeco Ryans about 3 different facets of his offense. So clearly the running game setting up those bigger plays in the passing game.
Tracy has weighed in with another word, determined. Troy, you have to give multiple game balls out this week.
I would
All right,
agree.
we'll bite on that, Troy. We'll bite on that. Game balls. Who was getting a game ball?
Nico Collins.
Yeah,
is a
okay.
big one for me. Joe Mixon's the obvious one, I think. But Nico Collins, what I loved about what he did today, about his performance, is the way he used his size, his physicality. I don't know that we saw that as much last year. We saw flashes of it, but today that was evident in almost every catch that he made. The first one, the 50-something yarder that CJ completed to him.
I haven't looked at the coverage yet, but he just went.
He took off, but what's interesting is that CJ actually underthrew that ball.
Good point.
He had to come back, double coverage. He goes up, high points the ball, comes down with it, and it just shows how he's able to use his size in order to make big plays. And they needed it in that moment. They really did.
I'm not being rude. I'm merely trying to pull up the defensive stats to see who would get a game ball on the defense. There's a lot of guys here with a number of tackles. Maybe you give a game ball to the entire defense. It doesn't have to be one guy. So maybe Kalen Bullock gets one for making that interception, the first one of his NFL career. Ginger has weighed in. Now, this is a simple word. It's only 3 letters. But you know what, Ginger? I think you might be on to something. Now, I don't know if it was applicable the entire game because it was tight. Zach, she just says fun. It's always fun. It's always fun when you win.
It is always fun when you win. Everything's better when you win. But you're right. It was a lot of fun to watch this team, the explosive plays, seeing these new guys come in and have a big impact on this game. It was a lot of fun.
Once again, we're waiting for C.J. Stroud after this 29-27 win by the Texans in Indianapolis. Jason Bristol, Zach Tawatari breaking down this game in one word. We have our words. What would be your word? Weigh in. We're on the KHOU 11 Facebook page. So give us your word, and then we'll put it on the board, and we'll make it official, and then we'll pick a word that we'll go with. We'll go with that one word and we'll go from there.
You're
But
running
again,
out of room.
I am running
on
out
there.
of room. So guess
That's
what?
good.
Yeah, that's good.
A lot of positive words from Texans fans out there today.
That's good. It was also interesting. I happened to be listening to the Colts broadcast on the way in, and they were just not in awe, but really giving kudos to Kaimi Fairbairn. And when I think they said that this was the first time he's hit 3 field goals or more, 50 yards or more in one game, and he did it in one half, which prompted one of the Colts announcers to then say the only person stopping Kaimi Fairbairn today is DeMeco Ryans. Granted, it was the road broadcast, but anyhow, Fairbairn, listen, if you're going to make a push for the Super Bowl, special teams are so huge, and that will be an interesting meeting because the last time the Texans had a punt blocked was, I believe, 10 years ago, so that won't be a fun meeting, but certainly Frank Ross and his crew will break it down. But overall, win on offense, a win on defense, maybe a push on special teams, although I know Frank Ross is going to, he's going to be all over that punt block. Yeah, yeah.
You know he's going to communicate.
Yep.
On defense, one guy I wanted to highlight is Henry To'oTo'o, because we kind of didn't know how much of an impact he was going to have on this team this year. He had several big stops today, big tackles. 3 solo tackles. That's not a ton.
Yeah.
7 total when you include assisted tackles. But overall, he had these big stops and key moments, and that's what you need. You need guys to step up on defense and to make a play like the offensive guys did today.
And there was some concern coming into this season that Christian Harris is not out there. He's injured.
Right.
So
Exactly.
he is on the short-term IR, if you will. He's eligible to come back in 4 weeks. But no, that's a great point. Charlotta says, how we start is how we finish. Take it all the way, Texans. And then Charlotta says intentional. It's an interesting word.
One. Okay.
Intentional.
Okay.
You're going to have to put it on your board.
Okay, intentional it is.
But again, we're waiting for C.J. Stroud to come to the podium in Indianapolis. C.J. Stroud, this is probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, but this is one of those, yes, intentional. This is one of those matchups that we could be seeing a lot of when it comes to determining the best team in the AFC South. Anthony Richardson versus C.J. Stroud. Some may argue Trevor Lawrence versus C.J. Stroud. Anthony Richardson looks the part, has all the tools. We saw that today, some fine-tuning. That's what needs to be done for Anthony Richardson. And he didn't play a lot his rookie year.
No, he didn't. He was making his first start since October.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
And we talked about this on Sports Extra. Who's the team in the AFC South that we're most afraid of?
In our peripheral vision. I don't want to say afraid of. Yeah, that side eye.
Yeah. I think the Colts proved why they are going to be one of, if not the most dangerous team in the AFC South today. They have playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a great front four on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They have
coaching too.
Coach Steichen is
really good. Yeah, really
He's
good.
a great coach. And most of all, they're led by this incredibly athletic quarterback who is not only able to throw from anywhere on the field, but he is extremely physical.
Mm-hmm.
The touchdown that he ran in, lowering the shoulder, he had, 3 guys hanging on him, and he was still able to get into the end zone. He's a gamer. He
is. And then when you look at what they're able to do up front, you mentioned it, the addition of Latu, the Lombardi Award winner, he's a guy, one of those guys that you're going to have to scheme for because he was wreaking havoc early in that game. Checking some of the Colts mentions on their pages, they were like, oh boy, this guy, he's at least, I think the first Laramie Tunsil false start, I think 97 was lined up against him.
Yes.
And here's a guy that can get off the ball, and yes, I know he has had all these injury concerns, and injuries stopped his college football career briefly, but man, if he comes to play every week and performs the way the Colts are expecting. Watch out. That's going to be a tough matchup for any team, not just in the AFC South.
Yeah, and I think that, offensively, the Colts really did have the advantage over the Texans' defense when it came to those off-book plays that Anthony Richardson was able to make. It seemed like the Texans really didn't have an answer for those continued plays. Obviously, there's some unpredictability there, but overall, I thought that Anthony Richardson was pretty impressive today.
It's funny, though, Anthony Richardson, if I told you his what do you think his stats were for today? Because I just looked them up.
I would guess he threw for a little over 200 yards.
Okay.
Maybe.
And then
what?
Attempts and completions.
I would say he was probably 50% completion rate.
All right. He was 9 of 19.
Close. Okay.
For 212 yards, 2 touches, and an INT.
A lot of his damage comes in those RPOs, those run-pass options. He's able to shred the defense.
9 yards a carry he averaged. So he was 6 of 56. Jonathan Taylor has destroyed the Texans in the past. I think if you told DeMeco Ryans before Sunday's game, hey, you're going to hold Jonathan Taylor to 48 yards and 3-point yards a carry, DeMeco Ryans would say, okay, where do I sign up for this? We are seeing some action here on the left side of our screen.
CJ
that is up,
maybe.
Randy? I thought maybe CJ might be approaching the podium, but not yet.
2-minute warning, maybe?
Maybe. Maybe a 2-minute warning. Other stats here, Alec Pierce for the Colts, 3 catches, 125 yards and a score. Doolin, 1 catch, 54 yards and the touchdown. Michael Pittman, 4 catches, 31 yards. And then Adonai Mitchell, UT guy, local guy, 1 catch for 2 yards. So
he was targeted.
He was targeted.
On a deep play, but couldn't come up with that pass.
29-27, once again, is your final. We're taking your one word here as we await C.J. Stroud's arrival at the podium. Again, C.J. Stroud in this game, he was really efficient early on, and then his numbers for the game, very good, 24 of 32, 234 yards, 2 touches, and once again, something that C.J. does not do, doesn't throw interceptions. There were some close calls, but
a couple close calls.
Actually, Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon.
We have Joe Mixon at the podium. Let's listen in.
Yeah, man. Credit to our guys. Coach Slowick still trusting, believing us. We was out there being physical. We was running downhill, sideways, downhill, doing whatever we need to do to, crease them and make the most of the runs. But, man, shout out to the fullbacks, tight ends, and O-line and receivers, that was blocking, man. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Yeah. Yeah, so, basically, it was meant to go front side, and basically the linebacker basically screened over the top, and I just canceled his gap I just replaced his gap where he was supposed to go and made him pay for it. So I'm just glad I was able to close it out, in a crucial moment.
Stephon says that he still feels like you left a lot out there. He said he can go up another level.
Another notch, for real.
Do you feel that same way after your performance?
Oh, yeah, man, I definitely do, and I'm just, finally really getting tapped into, the player that I know I am, for real. And, the guys is encouraging and doing everything, man, to make sure this thing is still up and going. And I'm just glad, man, that I'm probably one of the forefront person to really set the tone and let people know, what it is, playing us. And you got guys like Neek out there making huge plays, and CJ being CJ, and Steph coming in and making crazy plays, even Tank. And everybody just complimenting each other, the run complimenting the pass, and the pass complimenting the run, man. So we got a hell of a thing that we got going. We just got to keep getting better each and every week.
Well, you're trying to set the tone. What is the mentality you bring, not only to want the ball that many times, but then to finish these runs by knocking people backwards?
Yeah, man, it's, really about will and want to. The O-line all week, man, they was just saying, like, hey, man, we got to make this thing shake. We got to make it shake. And I'm like, man, let's go get 150.
let's go get 150 started off. And, hey, we got 159. And, you know, we just got to keep getting better, keep building. Like Steph said, it's a lot of yards to, you know, go get. And shit, even Slug was saying the same thing, man. Hey, you gotta pull up out of there. And it was two of them where, you know, I wish I could have back, bro. But, I mean, more than anything, I'm just proud of how, you know, them boys came out here and we fought hard and we fought to the finish. It was a 4-quarter game, and we used all 15 minutes of it, man. And I'm just glad I was happy to close it out.
Joe, what do your linemen call it? Grown man football?
I'll get you next.
What do you call it?
Say that one more time.
What do your linemen just call it? Grown man football. What do you call this football?
No doubt. That's exactly what it was. I mean, you know, I've been on the lineman, you know, training camp. I wasn't in there too much in training camp, but I'm just letting them know what I see, how to hit and how to be, man. And they doing everything they can to open them holes and do everything that we got to make them, however we can to make them pay, man. And man, first off, special shout out to Stover. I mean, he made critical blocks. Them guys on the edges, they make crucial blocks, and we made them pay. But, you know, like they said, the grown man football, I'm just happy. This is my first time really probably seeing a fullback, and I can't remember the last time I seen a fullback in front of me, man. So it's a hell of a feeling, man, being on the winning side of the things, and I'm just glad I'm on this side of, you know, playing with Houston, man.
DJ, go ahead. I just feel, you know, they brought you in the offseason. They brought Stephon in. You guys, in your debut, you both go combined for 3 touchdowns. I just feel that, you know, you're doing what you got to do. He's doing what he's got to do.
Yeah.
You guys doing what you got to do out here, too.
Oh, yeah, man. You know, Nick, he definitely made some ace moves in the off seasons, bro. And I think that with the guys that was already here with the young core guys, and, you know, I've been a part of something like this where they brought in a lot of free agents or made trades or whatever they did. And, you know, I'm just glad to, you know, one, be on this side. I'm glad that, you know, me and Steph was able to compliment each other in all game, man. We was on it. We was on it in each other's face, like, bro, like, let's do this, you know what I'm saying? And you could just tell the passion you see from me, Steph, and, you know, guys like CJ. And I ain't seen the O-line really talk, you know, like that. And to know that them boys is really on that, you know, that's what make me go even harder, you know what I'm saying? And I know for a fact that, you know, they feeling the same way, you know, that I am, man. And they just all was like, man, you know, let's keep on going. Let's keep building. And to hear that is everything to me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to do whatever I can to, you know, one, be a leader, and, you know, two, be the best player that I know that I'm able to be, man. And just try to keep on building with this momentum that we have, keep on going, and everything else will take care of itself.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
All right, y'all. Sure.
There is Joe Mixon saying before the game to the O-line, let's go get 150. Yep, 159 yards. And again, very, very complimentary of the offensive line. And here comes C.J. Stroud. So let's now listen to C.J. Stroud, Texans quarterback, after a 29-27 win.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Just very grateful for another season, you know, to be in the NFL, a long dream of mine. But, you know, I feel like, honestly, we definitely did have a ton of great things, but we definitely have some things to work on. But, I mean, this is week one. Everybody's rusty. Everybody's rusty. I'm not going to name any names. But, yeah, so, I mean, I just think, like, if you can come out week one and get a dub against a divisional opponent, it's huge. You know what I mean? So, I think everybody played well on offense. You know, we just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot, and we'll keep rolling, man. I think this offense is just getting started. So, I'm very excited. It was huge. Yeah, I think definitely when you can impose your will running the ball, you open up a whole multitude of type of players for Bobby to call. And honestly, we just kept going to it, and I think it was working. And I think this is a testament that, like, you can see everybody had numbers today. You know, maybe not everybody. It was skewed in other ways, but, you know, everybody touched the ball. We try to call plays for guys, you know what I mean? for everybody to have an opportunity to get it. And I think whenever you get those guys the ball, like, they make plays happen. So for me, I just got to get them the ball as best as I can and not force anything and just really, understand that those guys are going to make me look good.
How cool was it to kind of have, you guys brought in Stephon, you guys brought in Joe, to have both of them have big games in their debuts?
It's huge. I definitely think that they're two great leaders. They were constantly on the sideline picking guys up, telling everybody that we just need to be better, you know what I mean? And I definitely think those guys having big games would definitely just keep us, on a trending going up, just because those guys are two leaders. So, once you set a standard, everybody else kind of falls to that standard and wants to follow that. So I definitely love those guys and love what they've been doing, and I think they're just getting started.
You said a couple times before, CJ, that pressure is a privilege.
Mhm.
I know it's week 1, but have you felt a difference this year compared to last year? Not just being a second-year player versus rookie, but the spotlight on this team has to feel different.
Yeah, but I kind of like the saying, that's a privilege for everybody to, have those expectations for us, because they're there for a reason. There's a ton of special guys on this team, and there's no real reward, I feel like, if there is no pressure. You know what I mean? Like, you want to kind of have your back against the wall, and we have that big red target on our back, and that's something we didn't have last year. Something I'm kind of used to being from Ohio State, but I definitely do think that saying is kind of what this team is about. Like, we love that pressure, we want that pressure, and we want to answer that bell every time we get a chance to. So I definitely do think that that's what we're going to live by, and we're really excited to have this type of team, because as you can see, like, we're very close and we love each other.
CJ, how do you find the good in that and not fall for the trappings of that, like all the pressure?
You said it right there. It's a trap. So why look at things that I can't control? Why worry about things that I can't control? I can only control my play and my effort and, my execution. So I think today, even though we missed a lot of plays and we didn't execute at the highest level, we executed at a high level to win the game. Man, tongue twister. But yeah, so, yep.
CJ, what about the DeMeco had, specifically that catch down the stretch?
Got you. It was huge. I definitely think that we love those type of moments. Like, gotta have it, need it right here. And he did a great job of just securing the catch. I try to put in a spot where he can get it. DB kind of played it well. But they say there's no, what do they say? The defense, no perfect defense for the perfect throw, or something like that. That's it right there. But no, kudos to the Colts too. They're a great, well-coached team. They flew around today. They changed up some looks that we didn't think that we're going to get. And they made us drive down the field, be methodical. And I feel like when we did that, we look good.
How did you develop that relationship with Nico to be able, when the play breaks down, you're looking for number 12?
Yeah, I think it's not just me looking for Neat. It's really just our preparation for that drill of just working the scramble drill. And we have certain things that we want to get done in that. And I think when we stay true to that, that the sky is the limit when it comes to scrambling. Because I don't know if y'all noticed, but I try to run a little more. Joe challenged me to see how athletic I was, so I felt like I got loose a couple times. But I think that's another thing I can get better at, is just scrambling. And when they play good on the back end, being able to use my feet.
You got time for 2 more, guys.
You threw the ball from your knees. Did you know that Brevin was right there, or you just knew that it was going to be a play right there?
No, that was a play, and when I slipped, I knew that nobody touched me, so I was like, man, let me just still try to salvage this play. So it was kind of cool. But that field I think it's new, so I think they got to break it in a little more. But it wasn't a bad field, but definitely just got to get my feet under me. It's week 1, it's clumsiness happens.
Another last thing, going back to the end of the season, or end of the first half, a little odd situation that was going on there. Can you kind of walk us through what was going on, the players, and what the whole, confusion was going on there?
Week 1, everybody's rusty. So I'm rusty. Rusty is the whole, I think the officials told us one thing, but, we got another. And it's up to us to really make the situation right. It's my job, you know what I mean? So I got to be better right there. And that's something we can definitely learn from, you know what I mean? I definitely don't think it's the end of the world, but those points could have cost us, you know what I mean? So we definitely got to be better.
Last one, DJ.
You mentioned throughout the offseason how the offense kind of runs through you during captainship. How did that kind of play itself out from your perspective in this first opening game?
Yeah, I think for me, going into this year, I knew that all the eyes were going to be on me about how this offense rolls. but I don't think that's true. I think that there's so many leaders on this offense, and I honestly didn't say much because I didn't really have to. Joe and Steph and like Juice, like there was a ton of guys who were like, man, we got this. We just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We'll roll. So, and I, of course, have some things to say as well. But when you have, leaders working together for a common cause, I think that's a recipe for success. All right, John.
There is C.J. Stroud talking to the media following this 29-27 win. He had some interesting things to say. What was your biggest takeaway from what C.J. had to mention?
I think the fact that he talked about Stephon Diggs challenging him to run more in the
Mixon.
No, Mixon.
Yeah, Mixon. Yep.
Joe Mixon challenging him to run more in the offseason at the end of those plays. Like we were talking about earlier, he's a very athletic quarterback, maybe underrated, and hopefully more this season we'll get to see that. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Well, I thought C.J., and I give kudos to everybody who weighed in with their one word. I think C.J. now gave us our one word to sum up this win over the Colts. Do you remember what it might be? He mentioned it numerous times. Rusty.
He did. That's good. True. Okay.
Who's to argue with C.J. Stroud?
You can't.
The one word that he kept mentioning a few times was rusty. We were rusty.
Yeah.
And I think that word really sums up what we saw today. Apologies to everybody who weighed in, but really, yeah, they had some good, they had some not so good. So what does that mean? It's rusty. They didn't have. Preseason is so different than it was 2 decades ago. And while this team does believe in giving guys reps, they were rusty, and I think it showed. It showed.
It showed that they had not all been out on the field together at the same time for an extended
period of time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, well, C.J. Stroud has left the podium. We also heard from Joe Mixon and head coach DeMeco Ryans. I think that sums it up, and now we get ready for the Chicago Bears Sunday Night Football. And that will be interesting. We talked about this on Sports Extra last week. Of course, you can see Sports Extra 10:30 on KHOU 11. Former Texan Seth Payne joining us, along with our newest teammate, Luis Ortiz. And this is also perhaps the future of the NFL with Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud.
Going to be a lot of hype this week.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of hype.
Going to be a lot of hype this week. A lot of questions about Caleb Williams, a lot of comparisons,
Yep.
a lot of wondering, is Caleb Williams going to live up to the bar that C.J. Stroud set for rookie quarterbacks last year? I guarantee you that will be the top storyline as we head into Sunday.
And
who knows
how
it will play out.
And so far, so good, because Caleb Williams rallied the Bears to a 24-17 win. Had a rough debut here, but the defense, it was really the defense, I should say that, but a win's a win. So there you have it. So you'll have two teams, 1-0, meeting on the field at NRG. I think that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up from here. For Zach Tawatari, I'm Jason Bristol. Once again, thanks for watching this post-game video as the Texans beat the Indianapolis